So it has now been about a week since NFL free agency started, and so we have seen most of the highest priced free agents sign with many different NFL teams. We saw the Packers make different moves. And so now I want to talk about the Packers' biggest needs after free agency. And when we look at what the Packers did, they signed Aaron Banks, guard Aaron Banks from the 49ers. They signed corner Nate Hobbs, and then they lose a few players too. TJ Slayton, Eric Stokes, Eric Wilson, Josh Myers, Corey Ballantyne, A.J. Dillon. And so now with the Packers bolstering their offensive line, bolstering the corner room, what are the Packers' biggest needs right now? No doubt in my mind, the defensive line is the area where I'm most concerned right now, because that was an area where I was hoping we would see the Packers make some moves during free agency, specifically at edge rusher. And now the Packers could still come out and sign some other edge rushers in free agency. There's still some guys out there, just not any of the top tier players who've already now been signed. There's still guys out there. But so far, the Packers have decided to stay put. And it makes me wonder if their plan is to go really heavy. I mean, I hope they go really heavy in the draft when it comes to defensive tackle and edge rusher. So I think now, especially with TJ Slayton gone, defensive tackle is a massive need, and edge rusher is a massive need. I would still probably put edge rusher ahead of defensive tackle when it comes to ranking, the importance, or, how important each is. But I'd probably put edge rusher first, but defensive tackle a close second now. And starting off with edge rusher, the Packers, we already knew, were a unit in 2024 that was inconsistent when it came to rushing the passer. Now, they finished top 10 in sacks, 8th with 45, but their consistent pressure percentage, they just weren't consistently getting to the quarterback. They were 20th in pressure rate in 2024, 26th in ESPN pass rush win rate. They were really solid against the run, 6th in run stop win rate last year per ESPN. However, TJ Slayton was number 1 among defensive tackles in run stop win rate, so losing him, I do think it's a pretty sizable loss for the Packers. And so just with the edge rusher, the Packers haven't added there, and so deciding to go offensive line and corner instead, they still need an edge rusher. And looking at some of these deals that were signed in free agency, you had Josh Sweat signing with the Cardinals for a 4-year, $76 million deal, $19.025 million per year. It's really similar to the Aaron Banks contract. However, Josh Sweat did get $14 million more guaranteed dollars than Aaron Banks. So $41 million guaranteed for Josh Sweat. And so he was more expensive overall, just when you look at the guaranteed money. But in my mind, if the Packers were to sign Josh Sweat instead of Aaron Banks, I probably would have given them, an A- or a B, or A- or an A in free agency. I ended up giving them a B because I think the players they signed are solid players, and I think that Aaron Banks is going to help the Packers' offensive line. But I just thought that edge was a more pressing need, and I was hoping they would sign when they didn't. I don't think it's the end of the world. I just would have preferred to see that happen. You look at Chase Young. He's signed with the Saints, stayed with them 3 years, $51 million per year, 3 years, $51 million total, not $51 million per year, $17 million per year. So in my mind, I would have preferred Chase Young or Josh Sweat to Aaron Banks, just because I think edge rusher is a much bigger need. And so with their decision to stay put, we currently have Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, J.J. Enagbare, Brenton Cox Jr., Aaron Mosby, a couple other guys as well, more lower on the depth chart, probably more practice squad type players. But the Packers, Rashawn Gary was really solid against the run, was pretty good against the pass, when it came to pass rusher. Lucas Van Ness has still been developing and just wasn't very good his first 2 years in the league. I wonder if Gutekunst expects Van Ness to take a big step forward, because I would have hoped to see them be more active in free agency. They weren't. I do like Brenton Cox Jr. a lot. I think that he was really good in the limited amount of snaps he played. So maybe the Packers expect him to continue to play well, because he was better than anyone on the team when it came to, I think it's like pressure, pass rush win rate per PFF, I'm pretty sure. So there's a lack of depth there, and so I really do wonder if the plan is to go heavy in the draft. I really hope it is at this point, but at this point, there's no doubt edge rusher, still biggest need. Now, defensive tackle, as I said, with TJ Slayton gone, that's a pretty big loss in my mind. He signed for about $15 million in Cincinnati, for 2 years, about $15 million. I would have liked to see the Packers bring him back at that number. Now, he did play only about 39% of snaps last season, so I see why they didn't want to pay him. But at the same time, he was he was their best, I would say, run stopper in the interior there. So before this, I still thought defensive line interior was a need, but without him, they just lose a lot of their strength against the run. So now when you look at what they need to do out there, I think that in the draft, they need to go after edge rushers, interior defensive linemen. Those are definitely the two most pressing needs. And even when you look at the future for the Packers, Kenny Clark is 29 years old. I still think he has some good years left, but he definitely took a drop down in production last year, specifically when it came to rushing the passer. 10 sacks per PFF in 2023, only 1 in 2024. 66 pressures in 2023, only 34 in 66 in 2023, 34 in 2024. 48 hurries in 2023, 29 hurries in 2024. And so it wasn't a great year from Kenny Clark. He is under contract through 2027. And so I do think that in the next few years, we could see Kenny Clark finish his time with the Packers potentially. He's a $17 million dead cap hit if cut in 2026, a $7.1 million dead cap hit if cut in 2027. And so I still think that he has some solid years left. As I said, he is under contract through 2027, but the Packers do need to prepare for the future when I would assume in 2-3 years he's not going to be here. So they really need to bolster that interior, especially with TJ Slaton gone. I think Devontae Wyatt's a great pass rusher. Carl Brooks has played, nice at times. Also have Colby Wooden, who I don't think has been quite as productive. There's no doubt there's a lack of depth there on the interior. So I expect the Packers to go heavy in the draft because that's, I think what I've heard, there's some of the most depth or most players available when it comes to talent at edge rusher, at interior defensive line. So with the Packers going on O-line and corner and for agency, I expect them to go heavy on defensive line in the draft. Now, the third one I'll touch on for today here is wide receiver because the Packers seem to be in some conversations potentially, as they are many times. And it looked like maybe they were interested in Cooper Kupp. He ends up signing with the Seahawks. And so now you have Christian Watson with his ACL injury. Not sure when he'll be back. You got Romeo Doubs in the final year of his contract in 2025. Same with Christian Watson. You got Wicks, you got Reed, you got Bo Melton, you got Malik Heath. And so, as I've said, if this is the unit the Packers go with heading into the 2025 season, I still think they would have a top 10 offense. Now, I do hope they add someone else here in the draft. There are still some free agent receivers out there who are a little bit older. Not sure the Packers will pursue any of them, but I would expect them to at least add one receiver, whether that's a cheap signing, whether that's a draft prospect. I think they are going to add here. But I do think they expect that this is a group that can be enough. And I think with one more guy here, I think they'll be fine, in my opinion. So I'm not concerned. A veteran definitely would have helped. They didn't go after one, or they didn't end up having one. But I still think they need one more guy, especially a field stretcher, a guy who has the deep speed that can really open things up, especially until Christian Watson comes back. So those are my thoughts. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.